Now, live from the 13 Now Digital News Desk, this is the Friday Night Fever Afterburn.
Welcome to Friday Night Fever Afterburn, Week 3. We are here 3 weeks down, many more to go, but 3 weeks in the books. We had a lot of fun games tonight. For the first time, I had the game of the week. Once again, still a lopsided game, but a much better contest overall. Kaylee, 3 weeks are in. How are you feeling so far?
Feeling good. A lot to see, a lot to learn. So getting through it.
Well, let's check in on the scores from tonight because we had a lot of games in action. The game I was at, our game of the week, Bay versus Port St. Joe. Again, lopsided score. We'll talk about how that one went down and kind of why it was a lopsided score. But Bay, they roll in the second half 35-6. We got Chipley. That was the game that you were at, 18-0 in favor of the Tigers. Again, you were there, no scores in the first half, all 18 points coming in the second half. We got Freeport and Liberty County. Freeport in their home opener, 20-13, Bulldogs over the Bulldogs. And then Bluntstown, they pick up another win over Marianna. They go 20-7. Take this page.
Weewa Hitchcock was going to visit Vernon tonight. They were going to win that game 24-6. Then Rutherford traveling over to Funiac to take on the Walton Braves. Walton's going to win that one 49-8. Franklin County against Jay. They're going to lose that one. Jay will pick it up 37-0. And Sneeds visiting Graceville. Sneeds will win 32-8.
Then we got Bozeman up in Okaloosa County. They fell to Baker in a close one last week. They had the walk-off touchdown to win. This week doesn't go in their favor. They fall Baker 21-20. Cottondale, they get a win over Rocky Bayou 26-22. These last two games were Thursday night. Mosley at Tommy Oliver Stadium. They win big 42-7 over Arnold, getting revenge after falling to Bay last week. And then North Bay Haven and Destin, we'll talk about that one a little later as well. Destin 28-21 as the Sharks pick up their program's first win ever. This is their first season as a team. They get a big win over there. But we're going to start with Bay and Port St. Joe because that was our game of the week tonight, and it was a fun one. Again, we talked about all eyes being on DJ Oliver, number 4, right there. He played a big impact in the first quarter, but then we saw him go out in the second half. Didn't play much. We'll have to talk to Coach Jones over there on his injury status, but just look at that. Bulldozing through defenders, everything that we've mentioned up to this point. He is the most dominant player in the Panhandle. And then this was the name of the game for the Sharks tonight was penalties. This was a big one that was called back to a penalty. They had a few more before the half called back to a penalty. They had about a 50-yard pass to Lawan Zaccaro Jr. that was called back to the penalty, and Bay showed up big. This is Pennywell. He had back-to-back sacks. Jaquan Pennywell, he was fantastic tonight. We saw it last week. That linebacking group for Bay was incredible this week. Much of the same. A big one here for Bay as they go on to win, and now that's 2 statement victories in a row, beating Mosley last week. Of course, 2 weeks prior, it was Arnold, and now over Port St. Joe. Port St. Joe shot themselves in the foot all night long, but we're going to check in on some of the comments that we have here tonight. A lot of Chipley fans out here tonight, and no wonder why. They're 3-0. We got Chipley Tigers are 3-0. How about those Chipley Tigers? A lot going on. They are 3-0. They went to the Final Four last year. They were the furthest of any team in the area. Talk about those Chipley Tigers. What did you see while you were there?
Well, I didn't see much. I mean, this was another game. A lot of penalties, refs calling things back. DeQuavia Sori got a couple big plays, but most of those were called back while I was there. They had 5 touchdowns, and 2 of those were called back, so only scoring 3 touchdowns in the second half. But, it was a tough game. There was a lot of tension there, a couple unsportsmanlike penalties between the two. But, Chipley took it running. There wasn't a lot of great plays. The Blue Devils knew exactly where the ball was going to Sori a lot of the plays, and they would just shut him down. He had a couple missed receptions, tackled early on. So he had those good plays, but they were called back. So there wasn't much action in the first half. I think if you were at that game, everything was kind of got exciting towards the second.
I mean, you got to hand it to Holmes County, those Blue Devils. If you look at them on paper, they're clearly a little bit outmatched in this with the size, the athleticism. But as Coach Lee was telling us, it's a blue-collar team. They're always going to be out there working their hardest. To hold Chipley scoreless at the half, that's a feat in and of itself. But Neil Adams and the gang, they're out here doing their thing once again, 3-0. They went the furthest last year, and they clearly seem to be on the right track right now. I got a good poise of a question, maybe not a question, but a statement. Patterson and Oliver, who's the most dominant? That's a great question. Oliver this week, like we said, might be injured. Patterson last week, 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. We didn't get that in last week's Friday Night Fever Afterburn. We didn't have all the stats. Last week against Arnold, 500 yards on 28 carries, 7 scores for Jason Patterson. And this week, his inbox has been blowing up. Just about every team in the country wants a piece of Jason Patterson action. They get a big win tonight, once again, over Graceville. We don't have the highlights for that one. I'm going to assume there was a lot of the Sneeds bench played in that tonight. A very young team up in Graceville. Let's check in. We have some more comments. Patterson has a case for most dominant again. I like that. Restore the red. That's going to be Bay High's motto this year. Another statement victory. There was a lot going on tonight, but another one that we're going to talk about is Freeport and Liberty County, because Freeport, they started off the season with a couple tough losses, and then tonight pulling out a close one over Liberty County, the Bulldogs versus Bulldogs. What did you kind of see from this one tonight?
I think it was nice to see Freeport get that win. They got some action. I think Ashton Nunes is a great player, so kind of being able to use his offense and put those points on the board for the Bulldogs. I mean, I think they're definitely a deserving team.
And, once again, they pick up a close win tonight in Freeport. First time playing in their home field. I'm sure they like that one. 20-13. One game that I do want to mention, because we haven't had them so far, the Walton Braves. The first time this year that we've had some highlights of them. They are 3-0, and tonight they looked incredible. Of course, Rutherford, a very young team, but there were players all over for the Walton Braves, and I see some Braves loves. Go Braves. We love our team and coaches from Christy Bozeman. A lot of, Braves fans on the hype this year, and they were great last year going to the playoffs. They look really good. They have some players all over the field right before the season. They lost Keontae Miller, their starting quarterback, and it looks like, they're not having much trouble without him. They roll big in this. What do you think of those Braves? 49-8, the final score over there. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I know in the beginning it was kind of a close score, and I was a little shocked by that. But I mean, clearly they didn't have any trouble taking that lead. So I'm excited to watch this team. We haven't, like you said, covered them yet, but they have a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see what they can do this season.
Right, and they are in, again, if you haven't kind of found out yet how the realignment works this year, we have the Metro and Suburban. Everything's a little different here. So Walton, they're in the 2S. That'll be the 2 Suburban. They're playing with some schools. I can't remember their district right now, but they don't have any of the local schools in their district. But right now, 3-0. They're going to be getting into their district play pretty soon. They look pretty good. Mm-hmm. The Braves look good. Another one, Wewa Hitchka tonight, 24-6 over Vernon. This is also, do we get Wewa week 1 in highlights? I'm trying to think. I think we did have Wewa week 1. We didn't have them last week. They picked up a win last week. They get a win tonight against Vernon. Vernon looked pretty good in the first half. I'm not going to lie. They kept it close, 8-6. It was a tight one. But they took off in the second half. They go on to win this one 24-6. Vernon last week, kind of a gut-wrenching loss to Franklin County. This week, they held strong in the first. Wewa too much in the second. So Vernon, they go to 0-3. Wewa 2-1. So Wewa, they got 2 wins to their name right now, and they're looking pretty good. Another team that I want to talk about is Bluntstown, because they have looked really good. What do you think so far of those Tigers?
I mean, Josh Pope seems to be the deal. I mean, he's been doing great. These Tigers are exciting. I can't wait to watch them. I mean, they've had a couple great games, and I think tonight was probably one of their best performances so far.
Now, Mariana, they new head coach over there, but they are always one of those storied programs in the Panhandle, normally going to put an effort every time they're out on the field. You mentioned Josh Pope. Tonight, he's always fantastic, with one of the most, he's always doing fantastic with throwing. Tonight, he had 8 rushes for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really like the running back number 1 for the Tigers tonight, Josh Pope, the senior, really showing off those wheels. He plays football, he plays baseball, and tonight he looked like a track star. So like you mentioned, Josh Pope, he was fantastic, 20-7 getting the win. Mara and Hover, always fantastic for those Tigers. They are 3-0 as well. So we got Chipley at 3-0, we got Bluntstown at 3-0, a lot of big players. Mariana, Emily was out at that game tonight. She mentioned, their offense looking pretty similar to, other years, a lot of running. The Tigers, they seem to be all over that. Again, like you mentioned, Josh Pope, fantastic. But what else have you kind of seen from those Tigers through the first 3 weeks?
Well, I mean, for Mariana, the coach talked about how they're going to try to execute more of a passing game this season. But like Emily said, it was kind of more of the run game. So that's interesting to kind of why they resorted back to that strong run game, I think, is kind of interesting because if they have the abilities, why not use them? So
exactly. We don't have any highlights from Bozeman and Cottondale, those matches with Baker and Rocky Bayou. But again, Bozeman falling by 1, Cottondale getting a 4-point win. We do have highlights from last night, Mosley against Arnold at Tommy Oliver. Mosley Dolphins, they definitely felt the heat from last week. A lot of people talking about, Bay taking over the county. They wanted to prove that, once again, they have the players. They can do the job. Sam Freitas was fantastic. Again, kind of looking like Josh Pope over at Bluntstown, a run option for the Dolphins. They roll in this one. This one didn't even get to the finish because a lot of rain. You got caught in that rain tonight. You were there last night. Tell us a little bit about this matchup.
Yeah, it kind of had a slow start. There was only that one touchdown in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, Mosley was able to put up 3 other touchdowns, the first 2 with Freitas, and then, of course, Isaac Paul, and then they'll find Randy Pittman later on. But Mosley was able to show Arnold's weaknesses for sure. And poor Arnold, I just don't think they can catch a break at this point. They face South Walton next. So another tough game for them. But Mosley proved, they clearly had something to prove. They wanted to show that they're a dominant team in this area, and they definitely proved it. And they were all excited about the rain. On the sideline, they were all screaming, "This is a real football game," as I'm just getting absolutely soaked. But it was fun. It was a fun game.
I was enjoying the nice air condition back here at the station during that game, but I'm glad you had a great time out there. We got a couple more comments talking about those Chipley Tigers. Keep an eye on Chipley. Buchanan has those Tigers hungry for a repeat. I remember them all too well. I went down to that Final Four match last year. They lost a lot of seniors, but like you mentioned, they look hungry. 3-0 up in Chipley. We got more on Bay High. Great coaching, great teamwork. Bay High, restore the red. Restore the red, restore the red. We are going to hear that on repeat. If Bay keeps winning, that's probably going to be playing in our sleep. They jump out to 3-1. Again, we mentioned Bay. They're one of the only teams who has 4 games under their belt. They played in Enterprise Week 1. A tough opponent there, but now winning 3 straight. They got Arnold, Mosley, and now Port St. Joe under their belt. So 3 wins for Bay, and they are looking real good. We got another, let's go, Josh. I'm assuming talking about Josh Pope. He was great tonight. Bay High, Red Pride. Mosley, yeah, they did real well the other night. So North Bay Haven and Destin, that is one I want to talk about. Do we have the video of that one? This was last night. This was over in Destin, North Bay Haven. It was a close battle. We're going to have to check in on those Destin Sharks this upcoming week. They're technically not in our coverage area. They're Okaloosa County, not Walton County. We cover the Walton, but we might have to head over to Okaloosa this week. Destin, they get their first win in program history last night, 28-21 over North Bay Haven. And, we didn't get, this is some video that was shot on the sidelines for us. We didn't go over and shoot this for us, but here it was kind of a sloppy game. It was after a big rainstorm, a lot of penalties, a lot of turnovers. There were some issues with the lighting at the field, but Destin Sharks getting their first win in program history. Congratulations to Coach Ernest Green and those Sharks. What other games have we not gotten to tonight? We've gotten Arnold and Mosley. We got all the games on this sheet. What else are we looking at, Spencer? I will talk about Bay and Port St. Joe just a little bit for those who are kind of catching up. Like I mentioned, I was at that game. I was on the sidelines. Port St. Joe, they had some big plays tonight. They really did. they shot themselves in the foot over and over and over, whether it be penalties or just turnovers in the second half. We saw a big 80-yard fumble recovered for a touchdown on Bay's end, and then we got two more interceptions after that. Bay capitalizing on all those. Bay now 3-1. Port St. Joe, they're right there. They really could be one of those better teams in the Panhandle. Again, we got to check in with Coach Tanner Jones about DJ Oliver and his status. He did not play in the second half, but Bay, another big win tonight. Spencer, do we have matchups for next week? Thursday night, Mariana is going to be at Rutherford. That's going to be at Tommy Oliver Stadium. What else we got, Kaylee?
And then Friday, we're going to have Leon at Mosley. Arnold's going to visit South Walton, like I said earlier. Graceville will take on North Bay Haven. Holmes County will head over to Sneads.
Then we got Vernon. They're going to be at Chipley. That, again, Chipley 3-0 right now. I'm looking at Chipley versus Bluntstown. That would be a good one to see happen. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Vernon, they're going to be at Chipley. They are 0-3. Chipley 3-0. That's going to be a tough one for those Yellow Jackets. Pike Liberal Arts, we saw them last week up in Chipley. They're going to be heading to St. Joe. I heard a lot about them this past week because a lot of people were telling me, they lost like 18 starters from their state championship team from the year prior. And whenever that happens, that is very tough. They are now, I'm not sure on their status of this week, but they were 0-3 coming into the St. Joe. I know they're going to be looking to bounce back from this Bay loss. And then we got Trenton. They're going to be at Wewa Hitchcock. Trenton is in the SSAC North Florida League, so that's going to be a big one for Wewa. Freeport, they're going to be at Cottondale. And Franklin County, the Battle of Counties, Franklin County versus Liberty County. What tell us about the next one?
McClay will visit Walton, so the Braves will have another home game. McCullough versus Bluntstown, and Bay and Bozeman will be on bye.
And Bay will actually be off the next 2 weeks. They have two, as long as schedules doesn't change, weather doesn't happen. Bay will be on a bye week the next 2 weeks in a row. Again, they have 4 games under their belt. I'm sure they love, a 3-1 record. I'm sure they're very satisfied with that. They'd love to be 4-0, but Enterprise, like we mentioned, a very good team. They'll have the week off. Walton versus McClay. That is right, Miss Latoya, our super fan from out there in Walton. Your Braves are 3-0, 49-8 over Rutherford. Anything else really stand out to you this week? I know we didn't get to see Sneads tonight. We didn't see how Patterson kind of went out there and did his thing. Anything else from this week that really stood out to you?
I mean, it'll definitely be exciting to see Patterson when we watch him hit that field again because, his performance last week was just insane. But I'm just shocked by Bay. I know I shouldn't be at this point, but, they're really strong this season, and they're just continuing to prove it. Like, I thought this game tonight against Port St. Joe would be a lot more back and forth, and they just kind of stopped them in their tracks and took the lead. So this Bay team is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see them having the 2 weeks off. Is that going to help them? Is that going to hurt them? So it'll be interesting to see.
I completely agree with you, and this is 2 weeks in a row that I've been on the sidelines over with Bay, gotten to kind of get the feel for their team, get the feel for that senior unit. This is one of the best senior units around. That defense is the real deal. When you hold Port St. Joe to just 6 points, like we mentioned, Oliver will have to check in on that.
Yeah.
But that Bay defense, they are the real deal. Before we go, Spencer, we know those highlights. If you want to look for them, they're going to be on our website, mypanhandle.com. We'll have those up within the next half hour or so. You can watch those throughout the week. Anything else that we're forgetting, Spencer? Are we good? Kaylee, anything else?
Good.
Well, that is week 3 for us. 3 weeks in the book. Friday Night Fever down. Friday Night Fever Afterburn. We are going to be back next week. Hopefully no weather in the area. It gave us a little scare tonight, but we got all of our games in. Week 4 next week. Week 3 is in the books. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.